Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Trigger warning, we are going to be talking about eating disorders, of course, but we're also going to be talking about weight loss. And while I won't be mentioning specific numbers, this video could still be triggering to certain people. So watch with care or just go ahead and skip this video. It's not uncommon in ED recovery to look back on your eating disorder and miss it, or to look back on a specific time in your life, maybe when you looked a certain way or you were engaging in certain behaviors and think, life was just so much better back then. I think it's similar to the way that you can look back on a past relationship or a past experience and only see the positives, and you've kind of forgotten all the negatives. You're looking at the situation through rose-colored glasses. I've definitely fallen into the trap of only remembering the good things about my eating disorder, especially during the time that I lost a lot of weight very quickly. I look back on that period and sometimes I really miss it, and I think, oh my goodness, I was so much more confident. I felt so much better in my body and life was so much better back then, and I just want to go back. But of course, that's almost never the full story. Your eating disorder is not going to remind you of the negative aspects, but only the positive aspects of the ED. And while it is okay and it's normal to grieve and miss your eating disorder, I do think it's also important to remember the things that your eating disorder took away from you. So here is the reality of extreme weight loss, or I suppose I should say my reality of extreme weight loss. I lost a lot of weight very quickly, and I'm not going to tell you the amount that I lost or the body fat percentage that I lost, but I do go a little bit more in depth in my eating disorder story in this video that I'll put up here, and I'll also link it down below. When I first started losing the weight, it was all butterflies and rainbows. I was excited. I felt like I was finally getting the body that I'd always wanted, but very quickly things started to turn south and I started to notice some really weird things. Number one is hormonal issues. I had really bad hormonal issues during this time. I didn't have a regular period and I had terrible hormonal acne. It was really bad. I was so insecure about it, and I tried a bunch of different things, and the only thing that ended up working to actually kind of fix that issue was going on birth control. And I never really had major hormonal issues until I started losing the weight very quickly. Number two is I was very irritable. And I look back on this time in my life and I'm kind of embarrassed at the way that I acted and the things that I said. For example, I remember one time I was talking with one of my professors, and I was a really good student in college, basically a straight A student, and all the professors liked me, but this one professor was telling me to do something and he had some comment about an assignment, and I remember just sitting there arguing with him like I didn't want to do what he was telling me to do. And I remember leaving that interaction thinking, oh my goodness, who am I? Like, I don't argue with professors. And I mean, I don't think I was rude or anything, but it just was very uncharacteristic of me, very unlike me. Another time I remember getting upset at my brother for slicing bread too thick. I thought that he was cutting the slices too thick and I yelled at him. It's very embarrassing because that's clearly inappropriate, but I also have to give myself a little bit of grace because of everything that my body was going through. I was just a very irritable person. I was a different person than I normally am. Number three is I had really bad joint pain. So my elbows, I couldn't even rest them on a desk or a table because they would be so painful. I remember one time I was getting out of the car and I kind of just accidentally bumped my elbow. I didn't even hit my funny bone, but I just barely bumped it, and it was just excruciating pain. My knees were very achy too. I actually wasn't able to sleep on my side anymore. I used to always sleep on my side, but with my knees touching each other, it was too painful. So I had to sleep with a pillow between my knees. And that's a habit that I got into and I actually still do today. But during that time, I physically could not have my knees together without pain. Number four is hair loss. I know a lot of people go through this, and I definitely experienced it. When I lost the weight, my hair was very brittle and it would break really easily, and I lost a lot of hair during that time. I used to have very, very thick hair. And I remember over time when I started eating more and I regained the weight, my mom made a comment. This was, a couple years after my lowest weight. My mom made a comment and said, "Wow, your hair's looking really thick." And I just kind of chuckled and was like, yeah, it's amazing what actually eating food does for you. Thankfully, I've gotten a lot of that hair back. It's not where it was like before my eating disorder, but it's a lot better now. My hair is definitely a lot healthier. Number five is a lack of concentration. I remember one time I was sitting in the hall and I was trying to read a textbook, and literally I could not read. Like, the words were swirling around, my head was hurting, and I could not concentrate. I was a pretty good student in high school and college. I pretty much got all A's. When things were really bad with my eating disorder, I got my first 2 B's in my whole college career. I'm not saying this to say like B's are bad or anything, not at all. I'm just saying that my brain wasn't fully there and I was really, really struggling to concentrate. Number 6 is intense stomach pain. During this time, I would have really intense stomach pain. I would be sitting in class and I would just have to hunch over because I was in so much pain, like searing pain, like someone had stabbed me in the gut, and it would be like that for a few minutes and then it would subside and it would come back. And I never got it checked out, so I don't know exactly like what it was, but I have only ever experienced it during that time in my life. Number 7 is insomnia. I've struggled to sleep most of my life. Like I've had sleeping issues since I was a kid, but things got really, really bad when I lost weight really quickly for a couple reasons. A, I would go to bed hungry every night and my stomach would be growling and I couldn't sleep because I was actually in physical pain. And B, I think there was just a level of not being able to rest and actually sleep because of everything that my body was going through. During this time, I got into food porn. I don't know if that's an actual term, if someone else has come up with that in the past, but that's what I call it. I would scroll through Pinterest and look at pictures of food and look at recipes, and that was somehow able to satiate me a little bit. Literally every single night, I would just look at pictures of food. I guess I didn't realize that wasn't normal at the time, but I definitely don't do that now. Somehow it was comforting to me, and I would even dream about food when I did end up sleeping, but during that time, really, really terrible sleep problems. Number 8 is I stopped hanging out with my friends. I became really self-conscious eating in front of other people. I hated people seeing me eat. I hated people seeing me buy food. I would go to the cafeteria and put food in a takeaway container and I would take it back to my room to eat it because I didn't like people to see me eat. And if friends asked me to go out or hang out, I was always scared because I was afraid that food would be involved and I didn't want to explain why I wasn't eating or be pressured into eating something that I didn't want to eat. So I kind of isolated myself and didn't really hang out with my friends during this time, which is really sad to me. Honestly, now it makes me very sad that I lost that time with my friends to my eating disorder. Number 9 is I started passing out. One time I was in the shower and I just felt this wave of dizziness come over me and I felt my knees starting to buckle, and I grabbed my towel and I just fell on my dorm room floor and I couldn't get up. Like I was going in and out of blackness and I literally could not move, and I laid there for probably, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes with shampoo in my hair because I couldn't get up. And then finally I was able to get up and take a shower and finish my shower. Another time I was coming back from a run and I had just gotten into my room and I just collapsed on the floor. And again, I couldn't get up for like 30, 40 minutes. I just laid there and I would go in and out of blackness and remember thinking like, this is kind of weird, but I was never concerned enough to go get help or like go to the doctor for some reason. I justified a lot of things as being normal, but let me just say passing out is not normal. Falling on the floor and not being able to get up is not normal, but that did happen a few times during the period of losing weight. Last but not least, number 10, I was insecure. This is an interesting point because how I was feeling about myself during this time is a bit of a dichotomy. On the one hand, I was happy that I was losing weight and I was feeling better about my body in some senses, but on the other hand, I was very insecure. I would stand in front of the mirror and body check, like I'd grab my legs and my arms and I would just think, oh my goodness, I have so much more weight to lose. I just need to lose this much more weight. And then I would lose that, but I would still feel really insecure. I would still feel like it wasn't enough. So on the one hand, I was feeling good that I was losing weight. It made me happy, albeit the happiness was short-lived. But on the other hand, I was very insecure and my eating disorder was constantly reminding me that it was never enough. So there you have it. That's my dark reality of extreme weight loss. If you can relate to anything, I'm sorry, no one should have to go through that. But if you can relate and you want to let me know, feel free to leave me a comment. And I'm not saying all these things to say that you shouldn't grieve your eating disorder or that it's wrong to miss your eating disorder. That is a natural part of the recovery process. But I also think it's important to remember that as much as your eating disorder would like to tell you that everything was butterflies and rainbows during that time, that is a lie. Recently, I've kind of been missing the good old days of my eating disorder, but I'm trying to remember all the things that my eating disorder took from me. And whenever I'm tempted to believe that everything was so much better back then, I just have to remember that that is a lie for my eating disorder, just like everything that your eating disorder is saying to you is probably a lie. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. I love you guys. I'm rooting for you all, and I will see you in the next video.